Mr Chairman, I call Mike Saban.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Look, very pleased to take short call on the second part of the bill. Mr Chairman, there's been a lot of politicised comments coming across the House today, and we've seen that, I think, over the years with law and order bills as well. The reality is, Mr Chairman, is what we're dealing with here are New Zealanders who are not in work and finding better ways to support them to be in it. And at its very heart, that has been the core focus in this bill. And one of the key ways that this transition will occur, sir, is through the 7 categories becoming 3, and simplification and clarifying of the important messages that really underpin what this bill seeks to achieve. There's been some comments around the numbers, and we hear various numbers battered around and defended and challenged and so forth. But the reality is, sir, is that between 2000 and 2008, if we really want to dig into those numbers, 51.6% increase in those on the sickness benefit, a 47.2% increase on those on the invalids benefit, and an 8.5% increase on those on the domestic purposes benefit. As a police officer working in Whangarei and Kaitaia, or throughout Northland essentially, sir, I saw throughout the course of that time an immense change in the welfare system, in the approach to welfare, the belief about what welfare was about, and those figures absolutely spell that out crystal clear in my view, sir. This bill is really challenging, I guess, one end of the spectrum that I don't think too many members in this House are keen to discuss, and that is the end of the spectrum where there are vulnerable children being abused, being beaten, where there are young people hardly adequate, in my view, to be making decisions about being a parent when they are children themselves, who actually, through intergenerational welfare, and we'll hear opposition from the other side of the House on this, but the reality is, sir, is there is a group of people that this House is not willing to challenge, not willing to acknowledge exists, and this is where the vast majority of the vulnerable children and the carnage that we see out there is happening. And we're trying to address that. This side of the House are trying to address it in many ways, sir, but the reality is there's an end of the spectrum where, unfortunately, mothers are trapped in welfare, they are making poor decisions, and the Children's Commissioner absolutely alluded to this point in his submission, sir. The Children's Commissioner made it very clear, and I'll quote him in Select Committee, he said that work is the best route out of poverty. And there is no one in this House that can't deny that fact. And we'll hear objection from the other side of the House, as we always do, from parties who will sit there and rail against every effort that this government is making to introduce growth into the economy through legislating, through giving the community the tools, the business community the tools that they need. So they can stand on that moral high ground they seem to have occupied and quote ad infinitum that there are no jobs, sir, but they can't come into this House and not support bills that are about job creation. Mr Chair, the Children's Commissioner also went on to point out, sir, that social obligations are a normal part of society. Social obligations are a normal part of society. In a family, in a business, in a church, sir, social obligations are a normal part of what we have as society. The Children's Commissioner absolutely backed that up. He also went on to say, sir, and this is the important thing to note, he also went on to say that he believes that the area of greatest harm where vulnerable children are most affected is in the area of the people that will require the sanctions, the most amount of sanctions in this bill, sir. And this is about challenging that particular group to ensure that the support that they need, to ensure that the safety and vulnerability of those children is actually being addressed, is being catered for, sir. So the Children's Commissioner, work is the way out of poverty. It is not a punitive thing. It is not a punitive thing. Social obligations are a normal part of society, and the most vulnerable children are at this end of the spectrum. We must address them. This bill does that, sir.
call Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Pleased to take a call on this at this stage of this bill. And Sir, the last